Today we are talking with Ruby Chavez from Atlanta. She is a creative, a designer. She's got a really interesting story of growing up in some hard areas in Texas, and her family getting out of there and moving to Atlanta, Georgia, the Georgia area. So she's self-described introvert. However, when it's time to do it and time to go for it, she definitely goes for it. So this young artist is up and coming, and she's doing some really fun, creative stuff. So if you're into art, if you're into design, this episode's for you. Stay tuned. All right, we're here with the podcast. I'm here with Ruby Chavez. I was checking out your Instagram earlier,
Mm.
a few things online, and it always amazes me. I'm not a very art artist. I'm not into art design. I love
Yeah.
it. I think it's really cool that other people are very good at it. I'm just my brain doesn't. I can't put patterns together. I can't put colors together. So looking at all your stuff is really, really super cool.
Thank you.
Probably the best thing is, I guess, maybe tell everyone, because you seem to be doing your hands in a lot of different things. Who exactly are you, and what exactly are you doing these days?
Okay, so my name is Ruby Chavez. I'm an Atlanta-based artist, and I really am just one of those people that kind of get in where I fit in.
Mm,
I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so I have experience with a lot of mediums, anywhere from working with cars and painting on cars to
mm.
designing shoes and hats and clothing to regular canvas work, mural work. Honestly, anything that I can put paint on or just I guess, deconstruct and reconstruct.
Mm.
I'm gonna definitely try to get into that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that. So how's it? Are you from Atlanta? Where are you from originally?
I was born in Texas,
Okay.
but pretty much moved down to Georgia. I'm actually from the more of the north side. Atlanta's kind of been a hot spot for just creatives and whatnot,
Mm.
and just fortunate to be embraced and to allow for them to allow my artwork to kind of have its own footsteps in the city. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so how's it going so far? How's
Honestly, it's
work? How's
going really
business?
good.
Yeah.
Really good. Each year I kind of build more and more, and I think that's the best thing
Hmm.
that you can hope for as an artist is just to kind of be able to stretch and reach further. I'm hoping to kind of also branch out of Atlanta as well a little bit and go into different states and different cities within these other states and kind of just see where it takes me. LA would be nice. New York would be nice. Miami's coming up, so I'm
Yeah.
hoping to kind of get my foot in there.
Yeah.
But honestly, the city has just been amazing to me. The artists here are amazing. We all look out for one another. If there's something that is coming up, we kind of shoot it to each other and just let everybody know, like, hey, if you want to submit for this, this is upcoming. I think Articulate Atlanta is probably one of those other annual shows that I look forward to each year. Art Agave is new on my radar, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed the experience last year and I'm looking forward to it again this year.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we're glad you enjoyed, and we're always trying to build it.
Mm.
For us, obviously we do tequila and mezcal, right? That's one of the
Hmm.
main things at the event. It's a lot of fun, but it's always really nice. It's always really important for us to bring in local artists or entrepreneurs or other people. Otherwise, to me, I always described events. There's sometimes they can get kind of boring. You're just kind of
Yeah,
walking
yeah,
around sampling. Like, I love to drink. Don't get me wrong. I love my mezcal, but
yeah.
it's really cool when there's some musical performances, when there's some pop-up performances, when there's some artists doing
Right.
some really cool stuff. So we're glad that you were part of it last year, and we're
Loved
glad
it.
that you're
Yeah,
coming back
yeah, I loved it.
this year. Yeah. So where you said you got your hands kind of in a lot of different things. When did you discover this? It was at a young age that you're just like, hey, listen, I love art. And then where did you get, like, maybe your inspiration from? Are your parents artists, or did you have like a friend growing up? Like, where does all this kind of artistic design come from?
You know, I would say, I guess my first inspiration was early on. It was my older brother.
Hmm.
He's really artistic. He's just kind of been the person that I've looked up to in a sense of just trying new things, and
Mm.
he was the first person that I saw actually creating things. And then it was outside of my home where I would see like graffiti and just street art and stuff like that. And I think I gravitated more to that.
Mm.
My parents are actually very creative as well. My mother, she can get into just about anything from crocheting to uh, I guess web design, pretty much any type of design you can think of. My father, he's extremely creative with his hands. He does a lot of masonry work, so being
Wow.
able to build structures, houses, homes, he can literally do a lot. So I think that creative eye and that ability to create something out of nothing, I think kind
Mm.
of like lives in all of us.
Yeah.
And I think the interest in that kind of almost overflows, I think, with us individually and what we do and finding ways to make things work for us and whatnot. So yeah, it started at a young age for sure. But I
Yeah.
didn't take it serious until maybe like 2013, 2014.
Mm.
And then I was at that point in time, I always had, I used it as like a way to kind of redirect my focus from maybe like outside things that I shouldn't have been doing. And so it
Mm.
kind of was a stepping stool into a better path.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it to take off. I didn't expect anybody to really invest in it or want to buy art or anything like that. And it just kind of was one of those things that I couldn't get away from. And
Yeah.
I finally decided to embrace it. And yeah, I've been kind of doing a lot of different things in the city with different celebrities, different artists, just wherever I
That
can get blessed to go through, I go
yeah,
through.
that's really cool. You said you kind of put your focus on your art. Were you going down a bad road, or were you doing?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like I think people of color have certain limitations
Mm.
or whatnot, or maybe not even the best surroundings
Mhm.
sometimes, and so trying to find means to survive or
Yeah.
to be able to eat on a daily basis. I think that's a real thing. And instead of handling it in ways that I was pretty much raised to or taught to, or kind of resorted to,
Mm.
um, I found I found that just by painting a couple of things, I remember running into someone who needed a book cover, and I never knew that I could really draw a book cover, but I was
Right.
like, I could do that for you. And she was actually going back and forth with a graphic designer that wasn't really trying to, I guess, take her direction to heart, and he was stuck on his design. And after their meeting, I just ran up to her in the hallway, and I was like, hey, if you want me to try to design it, I'll design it for you exactly how you want. And I actually started sketching it the way I heard her
Yeah.
say she wanted it. And I showed her, I said, I could add anything else, take away something. And she was like, wow, this is amazing. And that was kind of like, she was like, how much do you want me to pay you for this? And after that, it was like, wow, I was like, okay, well, maybe I should try to
Yeah.
do a little bit more. And it kind of kept me on this like straight and narrow. So,
Wow. How old were you when you did that book cover?
um, I was fresh out of high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to at least be maybe like 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So,
that's cool that you got that. I mean, relatively young age. Some people don't kind of learn those lessons or
mm,
have that like mindset to, like I think some people are just shy, right? And they're just like, "Oh,
yeah,
I don't want to approach this person or I don't want to get in their way." But for you, maybe it was your background that you were just a
yeah,
little bit more of an outgoing person or you had to be an outgoing person to
yeah,
just
had
step
to
up
be.
and say, "I'll do it." You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah, that's really cool. Most people don't ever learn to do that. Um,
yeah.
and their
You know,
talent never
it can
comes
be a
out.
little nerve wracking, because people might shut you down, or
Yeah.
you don't know what you're gonna receive in that moment. But I think I've always lived on the edge. I'm
Yeah.
like quiet, but I definitely go against the grain. The
Mm.
majority of
Yeah.
whatever I pursue, I'm definitely gonna be kind
Yeah.
of going full force. So
And that's awesome. Like I said, that's a really good message to tell people, because it's like, what if that person said no, don't do it, don't do my book cover, then what's the worst thing that happened?
right,
They just said no, don't do
just
it. You know what I
no,
mean?
yeah,
A lot of people would take that as like major, you know, criticism or downfall or
hmm,
whatever. They would hold them back. And I think it's really cool at a young age. You're just like, I'm just going to go for this stuff and see what happens.
yeah.
You're not afraid to fail.
No, definitely not. I've honestly had more failures than I can count, and I think those are actually like fall forward moments.
Mm,
So definitely not afraid to fail, not afraid of rejection. I think it's very necessary in the process and in the journey.
yeah.
Um, and I think it's your perspective. I think it's how you look at things, how you receive things, interpret things, comprehend things. I think all of that is going to be a determining factor of how you go get to where you're trying to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always try to tell people too, it's like failures, it's one of the best things that could happen to you, because
Hmm.
one, you're going to learn, you know,
Right.
and two, you're not, you're gonna improve for the next time around. And I've got like when I was building my business, my mom was helping me with some of the finances and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
she's my mom. She's like
Yeah.
very conservative. Don't do
Hmm.
this. She cares about her son. But I'm like, if I listened to my mom over the last 10 years, I would have done anything, because she wouldn't want
Yeah.
me to go anywhere. She wants me
Right.
safe. And I think playing it safe is boring. I think playing it safe is not going to get you
It's
anywhere.
not. Yeah.
So I love your attitude about like, let's go, let's fail, let's see what happens.
Yeah. You got to. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's just one person's opinion.
Yeah,
It's just one person's opinion. So
yeah.
you just gotta keep going. I think the thing that kept me going, honestly, was just the fact that I don't know where I was going. I just had this um, feeling that's been kind of like internal, that's been guiding me. That's like, okay, don't stop.
Mm,
It's like right around the corner type of thing,
yep.
and it's just that feeling that kind of just, I don't know what it is, but I like kind of free fall every time. So it's just it's like it's almost an addictive feeling. It's like just
Mm,
keep
yeah,
going, you know.
yeah. What else you gonna do? Stop?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think I couldn't. I just couldn't.
yeah,
And that's when I think you realize that it's more than just a hobby.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So you grew up in Texas and then moved to Georgia? Or
I left Texas at a young age. It
okay.
was a lot of gang violence, and
Where were
so
where were you in Texas?
in Austin,
You
Texas.
were.
Yeah, we were in
Got it.
Austin, Texas. We had, I think our house honestly got shot up, and my mom was like, "There's no way my
Wow.
kids are going to school here," and so she got on my dad about that, and we just kind of picked up and moved to Georgia, and we moved a lot in Georgia, and
Yeah.
then we finally kind of resided down here. So
Wow. So where did you move to better places in Georgia with less violence, or were you still surrounded in those same kind of circumstances?
for the most part, it was better. It was
Yeah.
better. I mean, I think every place has its I guess, you know, rocky
Yeah.
parts to it,
Right.
but I think the biggest thing was you can move from a place, but I think a lot of what you grow up or grow into kind of follows you.
Mm,
So there was a lot of things I think that as a family we needed to kind of work out of,
mm,
but no matter where we were, we still had a sense of, I think for me, I think everything was about survival. As I got a little bit older, I was just like, I was always just trying to make it through the day type thing.
mm.
And even though
Wow.
we lived in a better area, we went to a pretty decent school and whatnot. I think in the home, the factor inside the home, I think there's a lot of people that still have to deal with that on a day to day. And
Mm,
there are good parts, but then there are just some like real grounding parts that kind of like make or break you. And you can decide to stay on that path, or you can decide to, change it for you. And I think for me, going back to that earlier conversation when we were saying I just had to choose either how I wanted to go, and
mm.
in terms of like staying in trouble or like
Right.
finding an outlet to kind of guide me in a better positive direction. I think art was that for me, and it was my outlet and my escape. And I didn't
Wow.
realize it at the time. It wasn't until I got a little bit like a little bit like I said around 2013, 14, I was able to kind of see that people anticipated me being at maybe another show. And I actually would hold art shows outside in the city by myself because I just didn't feel like I didn't feel like there was enough representation in like museums or galleries
Mm.
for like people of color. But also, I just didn't feel like I fit in when I walked into
Mm.
a museum. So being able to kind of go into these tunnels, like in the city where there's graffiti and everything, and just
Yeah.
put my artwork up there and just let the people who pass by look at it, and I would be like, "Hey, thank you for coming to my art show," and stuff like that. And it worked out really well. I think that's when I started really meeting people. And I'm honestly naturally an introvert, but
Mm.
it's just there's still that other side of me that's just like I said, that I have to just kind of force myself to kind of push past that and showcase whatever it is that I'm trying to get out there. And I sold artwork out there, and I met some cool people, and then eventually was able to kind of get into my first art show from doing that. And it was great. Good
Nice.
turnout.
Wow. So how many are you constantly doing art shows now, or you're doing your own pop-ups, or what are you currently working on these days?
Well, I have an art show coming up, the Articulate Atlanta show.
Yep.
That's coming up, I think, in July. And so I'll be a part of that. And I do plan on doing like an anniversary show back in that tunnel,
Mm.
just to kind of revisit kind of my where I came up from,
Yeah.
and just go back to putting artwork up there and seeing how people respond to it nowadays. Because from then at that point, I was just starting to try to understand paint versus now I think I have a pretty decent skill set when it comes to like paint in different mediums. So I'm looking forward to kind of going back to the street and just
Mm.
allowing the people to kind of uh, I guess interact or hopefully connect with my artwork.
Yeah.
Um,
What exactly the you mentioned the tunnel? Like, is it just like describe this tunnel to me? I guess is it like a
so
yeah
So it's like so I don't know if you've ever been to Atlanta, but there's a Croc Street tunnel that's pretty popular. A
yep
lot of people shoot videos there. A lot of people, it's just a graffiti out type of tunnel. It's just a bunch of art stuff, and
mm.
the area is busy. There's little like food places nearby, but it's in the city, and it's called Croc Street Tunnel, and it's got two sides to it, like a
Okay.
yeah, two different sides, and cars pass in between.
Huh.
And yeah, I would just go out there and hang up my art on the walls of the tunnel all the way
Yeah.
down. And some people would stop. I mean, I had a lot of people um, kind of compliment my work, but also it inspired them to like, I guess, continue to stay. This one guy was like, I'm
Mm.
not sure if I wanted to move or leave, but it's like stuff like this when you just see people living their dreams and stuff, it
Yeah.
makes you want to like pursue yours. And he was like, I mean, we had a pretty deep conversation, and I just enjoy being able to connect with people and on a one-to-one level. But if it, if it gets any bigger than that, then great. But it was a good turnout. The tunnel was one of those things that I didn't. It was just a spontaneous type of thing, and
Well,
it
do
worked.
other people do use that tunnel to showcase their art like you did?
I've never seen anybody do that, to be
Wait, so
honest.
you just had an idea to throw your own
Yeah,
art gallery in a random
yeah.
tunnel?
Yeah, because yeah, because a lot of places here they at the time they wanted you to have like art experience or
Yeah.
like
Ugh.
schooling for
Yeah.
it. And I'm a dropout, so I didn't have anything to really, I guess, get my foot in the door.
Right.
So it was
They
like,
they needed some sort of credentials of sorts.
yeah.
That's
And
weird.
I didn't understand the there's like an etiquette to hanging artwork now. I understand now, but like the height from the floor,
Mm.
just certain positioning and stuff like that. And that was just not even registered in my head. It was just more so I didn't I didn't feel like I fit in that world because it was people who had either went to school for it or
Mm,
collectors who are, I guess, looking for a certain thing. And so I was just like, I'm gonna create my own art show, and
that's
I'm gonna
cool.
just see what happens. And that was it. And I had another art friend with me. He at the time, another artist, I guess colleague. He kind of came in there as well and put up some of his work, and we just ended up doing it together, and it
That's
worked. It
awesome.
worked really well, to be honest. It was one of those things that I didn't I didn't expect it to go that well, and it
Yeah.
went really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, going back to just doing it again, what's the worst that's going to happen? You got to just
Right.
take your paintings home with you. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Right. Yeah.
it's really cool and it's really inspiring for you to do something like that. Cause like I said, most people think, well, I've got to get the credentials. I've got to do it their way. This is
Hmm.
how it's been done in the past, you know,
Yeah.
so they get going through and you just, you know, I'm going to create my own thing my way and how, and do it. And that look at you,
Hmm.
you know, it's, I think it's cool. And I think it's really inspiring to keep telling that story because a lot of people
Thank
think
you.
they've got to do it the way it's always been done.
Hmm.
Um, and that's not fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That, I don't mind. I'm pretty, like I said, I'm pretty quiet, but I don't mind respectfully shaking the tree,
Hmm.
so,
I
um,
like that. Is that your line, respectively shaking the tree?
I just thought of it right now.
I
So,
love it. I'm gonna steal it.
yeah.
I'll give you credit for it, but I
Thank
love
you.
it. Respectfully shaking the tree. I think we
Hmm.
all need to do that, right?
Yeah. It's important.
That's really cool.
So,
Really cool. So
thank
how's
you.
the scene in Atlanta these days? I mean, we're post pandemic. I know, you know, music and art has always been coming out of Atlanta. It's always been kind of this
Oh,
hub
yeah.
of coolness.
Hmm.
Um, how y'all doing down there?
Oh man, we're great.
Good.
Atlanta, they create their own rules, and I think
Yeah.
that's why I love it so much. Um, the music world it stands on its own. The art world is starting to fuse more with it, and I love that because those are like two of like my passions, music
Mm,
and art. So to have the ability to work with some of these music artists, hip hop artists. That to me is like a dream,
yeah.
right up my alley. And I think probably last year one of my biggest accomplishments was being able to have work installed in Stankonia. I'm not
Mm,
sure if you're familiar with
nope.
that label, but it's Outcast. The owner, Big Boy,
Yep.
he owns that record label, and I mean, if you're from Atlanta, you like Outcast is a name that you have to know, and it's just the music is just it's spiritual. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just amazing. I grew up listening to them, so to be able to have a full circle moment. I remember actually even another moment where I was out. They had a concert, and I was out there painting, trying to get them some of my artwork.
Yeah.
And the artist that I was with at the time as well, we just kind of kept trying to hide and go in through different back ways, and the cops were after us and saying, y'all can't come back here. We were just trying to get the artwork to them,
Yeah.
and the people out in the streets were all like for us, trying to get the artwork to them. And so they were trying to help us figure out what exit they were coming out of, and to be able to kind of like run into them, hand them artwork at that time, run into Big Boy's mother at the time as well, and give her some artwork.
Wow.
From that moment, I was content, but I still had like this feeling inside that I was like, I'm gonna work with them at some point. Like I'm gonna work
Yeah.
with them at some point. And then fast forward to last year, I was able to get my mural and backdrop and stuff installed into Stankonia Studios. So it was like a full circle
Wow.
moment, and I'm just grateful for that moment. So yeah.
So how did you get, or how did they know of you to get your artwork into the studio?
Well, it was another creative. Her name is Marina Sky.
Shout out Marina Sky.
Shout out Marina Sky. She's amazing. She's a set designer, and she had actually got pulled onto the project. She goes by Set by Sky, and she got pulled onto the project. And she and I met at the Trap Music Museum, which is another museum or group or entity that I work with on like a regular basis. So much respect for them and the opportunities that they give me. But I met her there, and she brought me on to the project. And so um,
Cool.
after that, I was able to kind of get my artwork in there, and it was just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
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 So
That
can't
that
thank her enough. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. And again, I love your hustle of like trying to get your artwork in front of outcasts and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah, it's
You know,
you seem to have once you have a thought in your head, it's happening.
I go
Yeah.
after it. Yeah. Pretty much by any and all means necessary. Like it's one of those things that you get this feeling that it's going
Mhm.
to happen and you don't know how or when, but you just dedicate your time and your space to that, and then it does, and it happens, and then you're like, it's like a relief. It's
Mm.
mind blowing, but it's like it fits the destiny. It
Yeah.
fits.
Right. So is your like, if you can give me a peek inside your head a little bit,
Okay.
is it nonstop action going
Oh
on in
yeah.
there?
My mind is
Yeah.
like it's on overtime.
Yeah.
It's wild. I don't even know how I the ability to multitask is like out of this world. Like
Mm.
I have so many thoughts in the back of my mind. It's like organized chaos
Yeah.
in my head. Yeah. I mean ideas left and right. Just I guess intentions that I've set or goals that I'm trying to meet and attain. Yeah, just
So
crazy in
so
there.
how do you manage that? I mean, do you have a to-do list? Do you put things on paper? Are you like how do you say, okay, I've got 5 ideas. Do you make notes for one and then
Mhm.
start make notes for another? Like what is your process of taking all this that's going on and starting to develop it in different ways?
It depends on what the idea is, but
Mm.
yes, I do write. I definitely will write some of them out because some of them, the ideas just flow and
Yeah.
I can't get to them right then
Right.
and there because of other projects or whatnot. So I definitely don't want to forget that. So
Yeah.
I'll write it. Um, other other things kind of will wake me up from my sleep, and I
Mm.
have to get up and start painting it or start the
Wow.
process of it. And there's a few things that went really well, like just different ideas for concepts for like solo shows and whatnot. I have those. But yeah, it's just a matter, it just depends on what it is. But usually I'm gonna write it down. I actually have, if you go into one of my rooms, it's like written all over my walls. I have to see it
Yeah.
like around me so
Right.
that way I don't forget about it. And so it becomes more clear. So it's
Mm.
like right when you walk out my one of my room doors, it's like a whole bunch of just thoughts that I had that I needed to get done. And if you go into that space, it's everywhere. It's like
Yeah.
even on the floors, it's written on the floor. I'll be painting something and then this idea or this thought or maybe even a title of the art piece
Mm.
at the time that I'm painting it, I'll write it on the floor or
Right.
wherever I'm at so I don't forget about it. And so, yeah, it's
Wow.
everywhere.
So
If you walk into the room, it's like you can see my mind. Yeah.
and then do you take it and then put it somewhere else, or just does it live on the floor or the wall? Like how do you
Uh,
develop that?
this definitely it stays on the floor and the wall. I might mark it out,
Gotcha.
but to kind of feel like I did that. It's complete. That one's
Yeah.
done. But I do like to see my accomplishments, so I will.
Yeah.
So just in case, so because sometimes art in general, I have ups, but it's still you still gonna have your downs and stuff. It's not something that may always be on a rise.
Hmm.
So just being able to sometimes see those little accomplishments helps. But if it's a project, then if it's like a title of a project, then I can see it on the artwork, or if it's something that I'm building, because I do set stuff as well.
Okay.
So I have those maybe laying around the room or
Wow.
whatnot. So just a bunch of randomness, I guess.
But
Yeah.
you seem to be able to control that randomness, and like your notes are all over. Like I'm a scribbler on notes, and then I put it like on my phone so I can
Mhm.
legible. But like my mother-in-law came over one time because I'm always like you. Something comes in my head, I just got to scribble it down.
Right now, yeah.
And she looked at it and said to my wife, she's like, "What is this?" I mean, if anybody walked in and saw my notes, they're like, "This is
Right.
chicken scratch." Like it's
Oh
just
wow.
random words or random
Mhm.
sentence, da da da. But I know exactly
Exactly.
what that is and where it's supposed to go. So I can sort of relate to
Yeah.
what you're doing. Like if you've got something on a wall here on the floor, I might walk in and be like, "What is this?" But you're like, "No, no, that's the title. That's the next
Yeah.
project. Over there
Exactly.
is so and so's thing that we're working on together." Like
Hmm.
as long
Yep.
as your process works for you, then do it.
Yeah, yeah, it just is like that. I mean, I'm sure you, after hearing that, I'm sure you can get it. I think if you were going there, you might even kind of laugh a little bit at some of the stuff that you see and read, but it's like that, you know. I guess the vision isn't for everyone, but
Yeah.
it definitely, you just got to kind of got to get it out sometimes. So,
I agree, and I think that's one of the things, just getting it out, getting it on
mhm,
paper, getting it on the floor, wherever,
whatever.
and because then it starts to become real. You know,
Right.
like okay, here's an idea. Now it's starting to become real. Now I'm going to put it somewhere else. Now it starts to become a thing, and I
Yeah.
think I used to be when I was younger. I would just have these crazy ideas, and I just thought it was a crazy idea. I was like, that's not a thing. That's not how people normally do it, and it just stuck there. And then now I
Mhm.
don't. I'm more like you, but it took me a long time in life to realize that. Where I'm like, I don't care. I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care if I
Right.
fail. This is my idea, and we're gonna try it. And then you realize, maybe the first couple things don't work, but then when that thing that you had, that book cover, you know, good thing
Mhm.
you had that at a young age. I didn't get it until I was like 30 something. But I was like, oh, cool. I went for it and it worked.
Mhm.
Like, what if I did this all the time?
You just, yeah, I mean, I say at least you got it, no matter
Yeah.
what point in time in your life. I feel like, I kind of hate that it feels like that sometimes, because I feel like after a certain age people feel like you're not able to come up with
Yep.
something or be a part of the conversation or whatnot. And I feel like there's just a lot to learn from people in different age ranges, but like their ability to still create and still um have a voice in the conversation is just as important as somebody who's maybe 20, 21, 25, or whatnot. So as long as you're I feel like you reach that point where it's just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy. I feel like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter as long as you get there. When you get there, just go for it. Just
Yeah.
free. Yeah.
I agree, and that's the thing I see. Parents around my age, and you could just tell they're angst up, and they're not living to where they want to be. And they're
Mhm.
so worried about what the other neighbor's going to think, or what the school's
Right.
going to think, or whatever this going to da 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 da. And you could just tell they're living with anxiety. They're living with this thing, and they're not free,
Mhm.
and they're not
Right.
expressing who they really are. And I have friends that like did the Wall Street thing, and then quit and became chefs and own little
Of
bakeries and
course.
restaurants, and they're happier than they've ever been
Yeah.
because they did it and they went for it. And
Mhm.
everyone made fun of them. Oh, you're gonna leave this 6-figure job, and they're like, I'm miserable. I hate this. I hate what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right. It doesn't matter what age.
It doesn't.
Um,
Yeah.
but you got to kind of just do it that one time. Like I said, once you get that one time and you get that little bit of success, that little bit of like,
Mhm.
oh, this is cool. I like what you did. And you're like, oh, it's addicting. It's addicting
It
to
is.
like, you want to pursue that more. What's that next creative thing? And
Yeah.
keep going for it.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's a good feeling though.
I agree. Completely agree. So what
Mhm.
else? What does the future look like for you? I mean, is there anything specific? I know you got your hands in a lot of different stuff. Is there any specific path that you're trying to go down, or you're just still trying to feel things out, or where you see yourself 3, 5, 7, 9 years down the road?
Um, Hopefully, I'm able to provide a platform for creatives.
Hmm.
I think I think that's kind of like the one of the directions I want to go to, kind of establishing some sort of creative hub, so
Hmm.
to speak, and then get or just have conversation. There's a lot that goes on for artists that um, I feel like their voices should be heard, and even with um, just projects or set design or whatnot. There's a lot of behind the scenes juice that's just like good stuff, and it's just like, I think that's where you find the inspiration. There's been plenty of projects that I've been on that was like pure chaotic, and I
Hmm.
was just like, I don't know if I'm going to meet this deadline, and just seeing how you pull through it and it all comes together. Because most people, they just see the finished product, of something, and they can like relish in that. But
Right.
it's really the behind the scenes that I feel like a lot of artists, um, could benefit from sharing, and other people as well, and
Yeah.
upcoming artists, trying to I guess follow in those footsteps. I think that, hopefully I can bridge the gap there, and spend more time, with the community, and have those conversations. Um, but outside of that, I think it's never going to stop in terms of reach for me, and where I go. Hopefully, I can work more with, just, I guess, various creatives. I kind of want to go further into maybe brands, working with
Mm.
brands, and, just kind of, I guess it's never ending for me. Even with the name, business name being Imaginink, it's one of those things. It's just as far as the imagination can
Mm.
go,
Yeah.
and, I think that's it. Wherever the wind guides me is where I'm gonna go, and hopefully
Like
I
that.
can leave a mark there.
Yeah, I like that. There's no reason to hold yourself to one thing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. That's really cool. So you mentioned, when you were coming up, there wasn't a lot of, people of color kind of like in what you were doing, today, do you think, that you think things are better than it was when you were younger? Do you think there are more people of color in the art world being accepted, getting the right exposure? What's your thoughts around kind of like that community? We always think of
Hmm.
art as, I don't know. It's like we talked about before. It's a specific thing that you had to do. It's certification. It's the
Right.
same people. Do you think it's a little more inclusive today, or is there still a lot of work that needs to be done?
Definitely think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. I do think, and I'm proud of, especially here in Atlanta, there are a lot of, like Black curators taking the front lines of things,
Mm,
setting things up. Uh, Also some brown creatives as well. Just kind of getting out there a little bit more. I I would like, just to see more, I guess, inclusion with like High Museum, or just other museums in the city that are, kind of very, I guess, established.
mm,
Um, I know that they have some great board members now, and they're in the works of, or in conversation, or having discussions of inclusivity and stuff like that. Um, I would definitely love to maybe find a place where I could also be a part of a board or a panel or some sort, just to kind of speak for, I would say, a little bit more for brown people as well. And I think, as long as we're moving in those directions of, being inclusive, I feel like we're doing good. I just think that there could definitely be a little bit more, uh,
yeah.
focus there.
Yeah. Well, and I think we mentioned before, people just get kind of stuck in their ways of like, this is
Yeah,
how we've always done it. And this
yeah.
is, so it's, yeah, like you mentioned, it's good that you start getting some new blood within these
Hmm.
organizations on these boards. Because you start to miss out. You start to miss out on people like yourself and your friends and these really, really cool projects and these really cool
Right.
pieces. Art is inclusive of I mean, that's everything. It's like
Hmm.
music and art is like, we can all, you don't really need to know the language, but you can see the art, or you
Right.
listen to the music and hear the beats. And like, that's what I love about it. I'm like, there's no, I don't know, to me, there's no borders with some of the artists, artistic stuff and the music
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I think that's the coolest thing. So it's like,
Hmm.
let's not put up any walls or not let certain types in kind of thing. And
Right.
I'm glad that you think that it's moving in that right direction, because I think it's super, super important. And I think that's some of the best ways to communicate is through music and art.
Hmm.
And the more people that realize that, like, I'm sure you go to like an art showcase or you go to a festival or something, and it doesn't really matter what you look like when you're in that room. It's just
Right.
everyone's together, everyone's feeling the vibe. Like when we do Arte Agave, it's like brown, black, white, like we're all in that space. We're all listening to music. We're having a
Hmm.
mezcal. You get this just really cool kind of gathering.
Yeah.
And to me, the more we could do that across the board, I think the better for all of us.
Yeah, and I love that about it. I think if I've ever partnered with any group, or I guess um, museum, gallery, or whatever, it was always those who just understood the
Mm,
culture. Um, and so I love the fact that when I participated in Arte Agave, it was just that. It was just a mixture of people, everybody bringing their talents, everybody having a good time,
yeah.
stuff like that. That's what I love to be around. That's how I kind of sort of grew up. And so I think it's just important that people get represented the correct way, their
Mm,
way. Their narrative isn't misinterpreted, or I guess rewritten, that is coming straight from the source. And so
yeah.
um, I love that about places or establishments that allow artists to kind of do that, because art is really to me the front runners of the culture, and how things, the direction that I think people need to pay attention to. They
Mm,
get kind of, I feel like, placed under this starving artist title, and it's only, I feel like that term was established to belittle their importance, and
mm,
to also justify the lack of pay that they
yeah.
want to give artists, or the value of an artist or a creative. So I think it's whether or not these museums get the hint. There's a lot of people that are just going to create their own table and make their own seats and do their own thing,
Yeah.
and it's I hope that they get on board with these black creatives, these brown creatives, and just different other artists, Native Americans, everybody, just that they get on board with what's going on, and how much force the creative world has, and that way we can just keep doing what our purpose in that. And so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
hopefully.
and that's it's kind of like you mentioned some of the well-established museums, but it's like, things are made to be broken, and that's kind of
Mhm.
the best thing. Like, you're not gonna stop you. You're not gonna stop your friends. You're not gonna stop the creative. So, like, it's almost cool that you start to see this other thing grow and this other thing pop up.
Mhm.
Like, you taking over a tunnel, like, to me, is
Yeah.
the coolest thing in the world. Like, I think that's amazing. Like, I love
Mhm.
that. And you start to see these other things come up, and
Mhm.
it's like, sometimes I'm not a big fan of tearing down a lot of things, but like sometimes other things are just going to outgrow them, where those
Mhm.
things, those well established things, just become irrelevant and nobody wants to be around it. No one wants to be part of it
Right.
anymore. So,
Mhm.
sometimes it's cool that, you and your friends and other artists, that you got to create your own thing.
Yeah.
And to me, no one cares. Like, people are gonna go where they want to go. They want to watch what they want to watch. They want to think whatever's
Yeah.
funny is they think is funny. Like, the attention will go to you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It'll happen. It'll shift. The market doesn't
Yeah.
care, I guess. If you're good, you're
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
And you'll find your audience. And like I said, it's nice sometimes that some of these places, maybe they don't need to be torn down, but other people are going to come and rise up over them,
Rise up. Yeah.
and that's where the attention's going to be, and that's where we're going to
Mhm.
move for. So I like your positivity towards that, and I think it's really
Mhm.
cool. And you're like, well, they're either going to let us in and accept us, or we're going
We
to do
just
our own
create
thing.
something new. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I,
pretty
I
much how it
love
works.
I love that. I think that's really cool. So how's you still your family? Are they still in Georgia? Everybody-
Yeah, yeah. For the most part, they are both my parents are still here. I think I can't. I don't know if we'll ever move out of
Hmm,
Georgia.
yeah,
I mean, maybe, but it's just, whenever I travel, I always go to a place. I'm like, hey, can I live here? Does this feel like home to me? And
right,
it
right.
just it doesn't.
Yeah,
So it's like, yeah, they're still here. They're still doing their things. They got
cool.
their hands in a lot of different stuff. So as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's super cool. So what else is happening within the artist world? Are you doing anything in the NFT space? Are you doing any of the digital art kind of stuff?
I
Are you staying
haven't
out of that right now?
I've been going back and forth with the idea of it.
Mhm.
Personally, I have been, I guess, for my own artwork, but I have been working with other people on the design portion of it for their businesses and stuff.
Okay.
So looking forward to see those kind of get out of the I guess the conceptual phase and more into the final
Yeah.
product type thing, to see how that kind of turns out. It's been fun. I enjoy doing the little animation snippets of just different things, and so
Mm.
I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. But I haven't, for whatever reason, there hasn't been a deep desire for me to jump into that
Okay.
realm. And I don't know if I'm behind the curve. I'm probably behind the curve on that one, um, but I don't know what it is. It doesn't feel like that's an area I need to be in. But if anything changes, I'm gonna pop up out of nowhere and I guess establish my name there. So
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
see.
Just curious. I always try to ask everyone about where it's going, and some people look at me like I have three heads. Like I don't have no idea what you're talking about. Most artists that I talk to are like, yeah, I get it. We're talking about it, trying to learn it.
Hmm.
I just try to see where everyone's head is within that space,
Hmm.
and where's it going? Is it worth it? Is it going to be good for artists? Everyone keeps saying it's going to be great for artists. And then I always ask the artist, and they're like, I don't know yet. Like,
Yeah, it's one of those things. I know that there are artists that are doing really well
yeah.
in that world, but I don't know if it's for me. But I do know a lot of artists that are doing really well, and I do just try to be mindful of, I guess, how I leave my footprint and where I leave it. And
Mm,
like I said, at this moment, for me with my own work, I haven't had that urge to do that, and that could be a bad thing, or it
mm,
could, or it could just be exactly where I need to be. So I just kind of wait till I get these like little unctions in me that kind of like tell me what to do. And if it
yeah.
doesn't feel right, I can't do it. And so it's not that it doesn't feel right. It's just one of those things. It's not a thing. It's something that that it's not something that wakes me up out of my sleep, I guess. So,
Yeah. And that makes sense because then you're just doing it just to do it, right?
right.
I mean, you're not really passionate about it, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh, my friends are doing it, so I have to do it. So, but to your point, it's like I feel like you're going to get a moment, 3 months, 6 months. You're like,
Hmm.
ooh, I've got an
Yeah.
idea. Let me write it on the
On
door.
the ground, yeah, exactly. And then I'm gonna run with it, and then it's just gonna be at that timing, hopefully, and then it'll all make sense, and we'll see how it goes there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I am, I guess, in some sort of way involved in it on the design aspect for other businesses, but I guess we'll see how that turns out.
Cool.
And then,
Cool. Well, listen, I again, I appreciate your time and sharing
oh,
your story here.
mhm.
How do people get a hold of you? What's the best way? Website, Instagram, share all that.
Um, I would say Instagram is probably where most people reach out to me. Uh, Imaginink. It's Imaginink. That's on all platforms. I kind of dabble a little bit in TikTok. Haven't really been able to get into making daily videos, but
Mhm.
this is same. The handle is the same on TikTok, Twitter. Uh, yep, that's about it. Imaginingstudios.com is the website, and yep, Ruby
Got it.
Chavez.
Got it. So people can hire you for design,
Mhm.
art, everything. Just
Yep, just about
yeah.
anything you can think of. You're welcome to give me a holler, and we can see what we can create. So,
Awesome. Book covers, tunnel
book covers,
spaces, you cover it
clothes,
all.
tunnel, yeah, uh, car designs, shoes, hats, rugs. I've been doing rugs lately too.
Rugs. How do you design a
Yeah.
rug?
Well, I kind of more so paint. I might paint on it. I'm trying to get into the is it tufting portion of it all, just to kind of, I
Okay.
guess, build a rug from scratch, sort of.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, honestly, I just worked on a project with a Marina Sky again. She's just a beautiful person. She always brings me on and gives me these opportunities. So thankful for her. But she gave me some rugs, some 8x11 rugs, were pretty huge, and we created some artwork on it. And so looking forward to kind of putting
Huh.
that out and sharing those posts of those designs. And she kind of
Yeah.
had the vision of it, and she was like, Ruby, can you draw something on these? And so I was like, of course. So
So do people like after they're done, do people walk on these rugs? Like, where do they hang? Like, what do you do with the
Uh,
rug afterwards?
Most of them, well, these are going to be from. It's going to be a pretty. It's going to be a like a rugged out room, so they can walk on it. I've created it to where it can be walked on, and the artwork itself should be protected. Um,
Yeah.
some of them are going to be hanging on the wall. I don't think they
Hmm.
have any intention on not hanging them. I think that's going to be like a permanent sort of, I guess, experience. So, but
Yeah. So do you have these on? Well, we could talk afterwards too. I'm just
mhm,
I mean, obviously, we're doing Arte Agave in Atlanta, Sylvan Hotel.
mhm.
Um, I don't know. I might need like an Arte Agave rug.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, we could definitely do that. Hey, anything.
Yeah.
Bottles. I've done stuff with. I've done stuff on liquor bottles, uh, lamps.
Hmm.
Suitcases.
Yeah.
Just about anything. So,
Okay. All right. Well,
rugs. Yeah.
we'll talk. We'll keep talking again. September 23rd. You're there regardless, but
Yes. Yes.
we might need an Arte Agave rug, and then I know a
Okay.
couple brands. So besides just having your pieces of art, maybe we could take it to another level this year with you, um,
Okay. That'll be
in,
great.
in Atlanta. Yeah.
That'll be
Cool.
awesome. I'd love to do it.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, listen again. I appreciate your time. Thank you for this, and we'll see you at Arte Agave in Atlanta.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Walt. I
Awesome.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody. So yeah, we're kind of hopping back on. We hopped off for a little bit, and there was a few
Mhm.
things that we discussed off camera about shaking trees and building new things and tearing a few things down that need to be. So Ruby actually thought it was important that we kind of get back on and add on to the podcast. So I know Ruby, we were discussing off camera about things that might need to be teared down or things that why you're shaking some trees. So I just kind of wanted to open this back up and let
Mhm.
you kind of elaborate on some of those things that we were talking about. So let me know what's on your mind and what you're thinking, so people get a really good understanding of what's in your head and where you're at and
Mhm.
where you're trying to go.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's how do I think for me, I think it's just important to have these conversations or to like make sure that um, we're we or me myself, I'm clear about what direction I'm headed, what I stand on, how I the values that I uphold and whatnot, my own moral code. And so kind of go back to our conversation about shaking the tree. I think my approach to things in general is going to always be to um, approach things with some sort of respect. Um, like my true genuine self. It's never going to be a thing where I try to be to anything other than love or understanding or just decency and stuff like that. So um, whenever I'm approaching things, whether it's art or whether it's in a different environment, I always take that and lead with that. So just to kind of, I guess, further elaborate on that and the idea of tearing things down, I do think it's important to to highlight that the intention is never to go into anything with um, anything other than bringing about understanding or a conversation or a solution to a problem. And I think a lot of people of color, when they approach these situations or maybe moments of oppression or um, day-to-day things, whether it's in their creative professional career or just for their makeup and waking up on a daily basis, there are just certain obstacles that I think that come about for a lot of them, a lot of us. And I think that being able to emphasize that um, although it's never going to be our intention to take any sort of approach other than just having the conversation and trying to bring about change, I think that it's important to understand that in some situations it's not always that simple, and it's not always the case. And sometimes And I tend to believe that um, no, it's not about necessarily tearing down like a building or anything like that. But for me, it's kind of deeper. Um, I'm very much of the mindset of tearing down uh, those beliefs or mindsets, I guess, and or barriers that are kind of put in place to suppress people of color. And whatever that looks like, the intention is never for it to come off the way that a lot of it may come off, or um, for it to go into a route that, you know, is crazy. But sometimes it's necessary. And I think that people can't be afraid of that confrontation. And and that's where I think that moral code within me was more so like, okay, well, let me make sure that I emphasize that enough, because we cannot be afraid of what it might look like to people to have these conversations, as uncomfortable as they may be for some. It's so necessary for others to hear. And I know that a lot of people try to maybe downplay their voice in it all, but I think that we all have a part, and we all have a responsibility to make sure that we communicate that in such a way that um, it's not only comfortable, but that it's kind of lets whoever is listening to us know where we stand. The idea is never to I guess run away from these sorts of situations or opportunities to share that, because so many of us have situations that maybe um, worse than others, or maybe in a position that they may not be in a position to speak on it. But whatever we do, or however we decide to go about life, I think for me it's important that that I acknowledge that much, um, and and embrace that confrontation is like the catalyst for change. And confrontation doesn't have to mean that it has to be hostile or even disrespectful. Confrontation can be something that both parties agree to have in some sort of, I guess, with some sort of understanding or respect or decency. And in order to have those kind of conversations, or to know where people stand, we got to be brave enough to speak on them when those things come around. So it was just more so understanding the significance of shaking trees and tearing things down. Sometimes when people can hear those things, they can feel some kind of way, and
Mm.
so um, it's never to pacify anything, because it is a reality out here, but it's definitely more so, I guess, an important thing to just highlight that, hey, we're just trying to be able to share our stories,
Yeah.
tell our narratives ourselves. Because even when we talked on change within the art community, and you asked me such a great question about, well, what direction is it going now, and how do I feel about that? Do I feel like there's been some, I guess, implementation of change and whatnot? So, and I do. I see small progressions where people of color are being able to sit in these board meetings and have a voice in there, and I think that's amazing and it's great. And I love the people that I know that are in those positions, and that's a step. And I just think we need to continue having those steps, because uh, everybody has their community, and they have their story, and they have their influence. And it's important that on these boards that the faces don't all look the same,
Hmm.
and that we have a variety of people that are able to represent for their cultures, represent for their communities, and show these communities that it's possible. And I think that if these museums can embrace that idea, or these galleries, to the degree that we feel them, I feel like the outreach is going to be so impactful. And I think that people need to see where they stand on it. Is this just an art business where we're selling work, or are we trying to reach the youth? Are we trying to bridge gaps? Are we trying to um, build a real art community here? that looks like everyone. And
Mhm.
so those are the type of conversations that could be touchy, but I think they're so important to have. And I think for me, when I look at it, like when I was going out to Croc Street Tunnel and trying to have those shows, it was because I didn't feel like I had a place. And so I created it, a place that
Yeah.
I felt safe, a place that I felt seen, heard, that appreciated. And that was on the streets for me. And to to have those sorts of, I guess, engagements with the people, that has always been, I think, where I come to life. Is just those real one-on-one conversations. Um, and sometimes with museums, they miss that.
Mm.
They miss that connection. And a lot of it is just because maybe it's not something they're used to or know or really familiar with. And sometimes we fear what we don't know and we separate ourselves to not be associated. But I think we need to hear one another more and place ourselves in a position to see that um, it's not always what it's perceived to be, but there is more to a story. There's more to a person. There's more to an artist. There's more to us, as individuals. So that was the importance, I think, for me, is kind of pretty much having that conversation
Yeah.
and getting out there and making sure that anybody who is listening to this, if to realize that, hey, sometimes even in these conversations they could be a little uncomfortable to have, but you got to know who you are. You got to walk in that, and no matter what it looks like, and no matter what falls off the wayside, or you know what doesn't stick, you have to be true to your moral code, and you have to, walk in that daily, whether it's creating your art, however you choose to create your art. And that's what I think I love about being an artist, is that we can express ourselves exactly how we want to express ourselves. And we do that in different ways, but the art is like in the forefront of, of, I guess, changing the narrative. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I'm glad we got to kind of elaborate on all that. And to your point, it's like, you it's not even think it's like having these conversations, if they're uncomfortable. I think the conversations always need to happen, and they need to be a conversation. I think it's good to
Hmm.
hear this side or that side or whoever's side, to let everyone speak a little bit. And I think when you talk, when you speak, people can understand it. And I love the fact that you were like, it's one thing to tear things down, but it's also something to have a plan in place. Like,
Hmm.
what I loved about you is that you had a plan. Like, you're just like, okay, you're not going to accept me over here. Here's my plan. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to continue growing. But I think having these conversations over and over and over again, I think are super important, no matter how
Right.
uncomfortable it is. Um, but I like the fact that you're approaching it and telling people to, yes, have these
Mhm.
conversations, because more and more people will get comfortable in these conversations.
Yeah.
They'll get comfortable with expressing their true feelings. They'll get comfortable with you. They'll get comfortable with something new. And I think people get so damn comfortable that any change is not good change, and they don't like
Right.
it. I don't, oh, no, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how it was. And I hate that stuff. I think it's terrible. I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
stand when someone says, "Well, this is how we've always done it." I'm like,
Mhm.
well, that was okay a little bit, but now it needs to change, and now we need to grow,
Mhm.
now we need to progress, now we need to do something different, or else we're all going to stay the same and be the same thing that we were, and still have the same problems that we
Right.
had in the
Right.
past. So I think it's important. I'm glad we got to continue, and I'm glad you took 10 minutes and kind of
Thank
express
you.
how you feel, because I think it's important, and I think everyone
Mhm.
needs to have these conversations. That way we're making the necessary changes, and everyone gets the voice.
Right.
So we're all moving together as a group in the best way.
Right. 100%. Definitely agree with that. And so thank you, for real. Thank you
Yeah,
for allowing that to be something that we reconnected on, and I was able to further elaborate um,
cool.
on. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think it's important, and I appreciate you reaching back out, and the fact that we got to go over it, because, like I said, in especially in this community, in the artist community, sometimes things just, like I said, it's not about, I always see people when they want to, like, definitely things need to be torn down and things need to change, but it's so cool when you're having the conversation and you have a plan. It's like, it's nice. It's really nice to see. And I
Mhm.
think that's a good voice for you to say, hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with tearing stuff down, but it's also cool, kind of cool to have a plan. It's kind of
Mhm.
cool to have something else to put in its place. It's kind of cool to, and I
Yeah.
think that is good change, that people can say, oh, there's something
Mhm.
way better than what
Right.
we're doing, kind of thing. And which is nice.
Yeah, and sometimes people, and this is why I think it's important that artists just kind of go with that feeling because a lot of people can't see your vision or understand what you're saying or trying to do or bring to the table. So being able to resort to what you know best instead of relying on approval or validation of other businesses or whatnot that may not be able to see where you're coming from. I think that it's so important that you just follow, the wind of your own sail and take precedence of your life and if it's important to you, if it's a passion to you, go after it and make sure you stand on what you know and stand true to those things. um, and yeah, these conversations hopefully, like you said, will continue to grow and be normal for a lot of
Yeah.
people and advance, outside of our homes and into, these corporations and wherever we set foot. And I think that's the footprint that I want to leave. And I know that, I want it to also be able to reach the youth and whoever else that comes after me. So I think that um, that having these conversations and you understanding the assignment enough to be like, hey, well, yeah, let's jump right back on. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate that because that could have went either way. And
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it's beautiful that, like I said, you're keep having the conversations, keep leading the way. You've got
Mhm.
it's easy because, like I said, you do have a plan. You do have a, you know what I mean? It's not just like I'm mad. It's like I've got some solutions, and that, like I said, not everyone has the solutions, but like I think listening to you talk and saying, "Oh, wow, she's leading the way and she does have some solutions." That's something I should be doing too. It's just it was a no-brainer when you reached out. I was like, yeah, let's add on to this. And
Cool.
I think it's important. Like I said, these conversations should be had all the time, so
Mhm.
people understand everyone's perspective, and what they're
Right.
trying to do. So, yeah, I'm cool. And then, like I said, I'm excited. I'm actually on a call with the team from Atlanta today, so we're planning out a
Nice.
bunch of stuff. So once again, I'll be reaching back out. And we actually was talking to a girl from Patron, and she's like, she goes, if you need some artists. I was like, well, I'm already talking with Ruby Chavez. She's like, oh, she's my number one girl.
Oh,
She's so,
nice.
she's, yeah. So I guess
Nice.
you're well known down there. You're well
I
known. And
appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah. We work. Well, I've met a lot of people from Patron because of the Trap Music Museum. They do a
yeah,
lot of sponsoring between each other, so it's a beautiful world. I appreciate. I try to make sure that my relationships are strong and that it's a firm handshake, a hug, a smile, and just
yeah,
that they feel me 100%. Because I will say this: like my network outside of social media is amazing. Like
yeah,
and for people who may not understand that, like social media is beautiful and it serves its purpose. I've just been so fortunate that word of mouth has like been like so great to me, and I think that it's just so important to me that I just continue to be, you know, I guess having these conversations, like just shaking hands with all these people that I do when I'm present in the moment, when I'm having these events and stuff like that. So Patron, love them to death. Just all these vendors, these different people. I just love meeting them, love shaking hands, and always looking for those opportunities just to kind of, hopefully work together. So
yeah. Well, I'm excited to see where it goes. Everyone has a lot of amazing things to say about you, and I know I'm gonna call you up in about 3 years, and you're gonna be like, "Listen, I'm flying somewhere, Walt. I can't do Arte
get out of
Agave."
here. No, I'm gonna send for you. I'm gonna say, hey, come down, come where we're at.
Well, listen, again, I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and please keep doing what you're doing. You're fighting the good fight, and you're leading the way. So,
Thank you
it's
so
awesome.
much.
It's awesome to see. And like I said, we'll get you down with Arte Agave, and we'll do some more fun things. So,
Okay,
Again, I
I'm looking
appreciate
forward
you,
to it.
and we'll talk again
Thank
soon.
you. All right, take care.
Of course.
Bye.